Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You're absolutely right. Let's go north for a bit. My name is Dominic Roberts, and I'm the Executive Chairman of Black Dragon Gold, and we are the 100% owner of one of Europe's largest undeveloped gold projects. Just first, I'm going to introduce myself and why it is that I am talking today as opposed to another far more qualified engineer. After an initial first career in the Army, I went into the natural resources sector 20 years ago. I am not an engineer. I am a project leader and I am a permitter. I've worked both in the private and the public sectors. In Europe, privately, I permitted and opened the first new mine in Bosnia in 35 years. And from that, I then went on to join the Adriatic Metals team, where we permitted their Vares silver project in a record 2 years. And the reason why I mention that is because I'm going to point out today that Black Dragon is not really an engineering challenge, it is a permitting challenge. And this is what I'm going to explain to you today and what we're doing about that. So if we were to look at what are the risks in bringing a project to bear, we would perhaps look at infrastructure, commodity risk, geological, metallurgical, overarching economic, jurisdiction, permitting, and management risk, although I'm not going to do myself any favors if I talk about management risk, so I'll focus on the others. So just looking at the first, in terms of infrastructure, the Salave Gold Project is located on the northern coast of Spain, on the Atlantic seaboard. The site of the proposed processing plant is a matter of 200 meters away from a 4-lane highway, which then connects us in 45 minutes to main port, 45 minutes to airport, and an hour and 15 minutes to the provincial capital. We have high voltage mains power engaged at site already. We do not have a huge amount of infrastructure risk with this project. Commodity risk. It would be crass of me to stand here from London and try and explain to an audience of sophisticated Australian investors about what the gold price is doing. We all know what the gold price is doing. Consensus pricing from the major banks looks towards a 5-year, $2,500 US. I note that the most recent scoping studies published on JORC have been using Australian 3,500, and I think we'd all agree that that is a sensible figure to take forward into any economic analysis, and indeed possibly even a conservative one with the way that geopolitical risk, central bank buying, and indeed even retail buying, particularly in the East, continues. In terms of geological risk, this is a brownfield project. It was first mined by the Romans in the 2nd century. It then lay largely forgotten about for nearly 2,000 years, until 40 years ago when the first investor to the modern project drilled down dip of the historical Roman operation and found no great surprise that it extended down dip. Since then, over the last 40 years and numerous owners, this project has had 60,000 meters drilled into it. And we published in 2019 a maiden resource that gave us 11 million tons at a grade of 4.27 grams per ton, resulting in 1.5 million ounces. It is a very, very clearly defined, well understood, and geologically simple deposit. We put out the maiden then, not because we'd run out of targets or areas to drill, but because we had an economically viable resource that we could publish at that point. The project remains open to the northwest, to the southeast, and an anomalous trend further to the south as well that have yet to be drilled, but we do not need to do them. We have a project already. In terms of metallurgical risk, there have also been years of metallurgical test work completed on this that have all broadly yielded the similar results where we get a 95% recovery for a very simple crush, grind, and flotation to a gold concentrate at 65 grams, which goes down our 45-minute route to port and on for refinement. In terms of economics, the last economics that were published on this project was a PEA released in 2019 with a gold price at $1,250 US. We are currently finalizing a new scoping study that will be released in the next 2 to 3 weeks, which takes into account the principal factors that have changed since then. Inflation, clearly. The input costs, the OPEX and CAPEX, will have gone up considerably, but equally, and possibly more importantly, the reality of the gold pricing regime that we are in now. And I'm very confident that the new scoping study will show a project with a captivating NPV, captivating IRR, and importantly, an all-in sustaining cost that puts us in a very attractive position in relation to our peers in terms of the through life of mine potential to keep this project working. So what is the issue of this project? I come down to my last sort of risk area, jurisdictional or permitting in our case. Some of you know the project. In fact, many of you probably do know the project. We've been around for quite a long time. We've been in permitting impasse for now nearly 5 years. The previous investors, Astor Gold, put forward an environmental impact assessment based upon an open pit operation and with a water management plan that was simply not acceptable to government. That was rejected. We took the rejection. We have addressed every single one of the issues in that, and critically, this is now an underground operation with a processing plant that stepped off some 2 kilometres with a decline going into the mine. It was never going to be permitted as an open pit. And we have also listened to government and changed the water management systems in accordance with their instructions. That environmental impact assessment is with government and pending their approval. But the reason I'm here today is that the regional government, and in Spain, governance is very devolved. We're in the region of Asturias, and the Principality of Asturias, as it is called, in December this year, passed a law on strategic investment. On the slide, you'll see it's called PEER. That law was specifically put in place to debottleneck and expedite projects of significant economic importance. This area of northern Spain has very high levels of unemployment, has very little economic investment, and has disastrous demographic trends, so much so that the area where our potential mine is located is classified as a demographic, I've now forgotten the exact term, by the Spanish government, in the sense that the population is aging faster than it is able to support itself. They need investment, and they need to get over the European NIMBYism, the not in my backyard issue that we have suffered from, and indeed countless other projects in the renewable energy sector, in the infrastructure sector, and indeed just general manufacturing sector have stopped investments from being made. The law was passed in December. We were the first company to apply for strategic status 5 days after the law was applied, and that is now entering into its approval process. In the next 4 months, we will know whether we have been accepted as a strategic project, and critically, if we are, and we believe we will be, because we fulfill all the criteria of economic investment, of employment, of environmental considerations, even the diversity and other targets, we fulfill all of those. Once accepted, the urbanistic process that is required to convert land from agricultural to industrial, which is what has been stalling this project for 5 years, becomes the responsibility of government and not the local council. And therefore, we believe that with strategic investment award, we will be able to move this project on in Q2 this year into our definitive feasibility studies and take forward what is one of the larger undeveloped gold projects in Europe into production. Thank you.